Hi guys, welcome to this channel. In this video I'll be showing you how to cut a Victorian corset. If you are new to this channel, please kindly subscribe, and if you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much. Thank you for your support on this channel. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to draft a basic body. I'm using the shoulder of 8 and armhole of 8.5. That's the armhole divided by 2. I'll be dropping the measurement on the screen so that you can, but you have to use your own measurements. Okay, so I'm taking 8.5 as the armhole divided by 2, and then I'll use that to form a straight line. Another way of getting the armhole measurement is the bust divided by 6 plus 1.5, but that will be after you have done your shoulder by 1.5. So for me, I usually measure the person, so it will be like bust divided by 6 plus 3. So I'm going to take the 8 for the shoulder here and also draw a line. Alright, now the next thing I'm going to do is to take the shoulder to bust. The shoulder to bust is 10.5. The shoulder to underbust is 13.5. I'm going to use 13. The shoulder to waist is 16.5, and then the shoulder to full length is 22.5 plus 1.5 sewing allowance. So I'm going to take that to form on other sides so that I'll get a straight line. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to take the natural neckline, which is 3, and then I come down by 1.5 for the shoulder slant, and then I draw the line. Okay, now the next thing I'm going to do is to take the bust divided by 4. The bust divided by 4 is 9. I'm working with 36. Then the waist divided by 4 is 7.5. But because I want to snatch the waist a bit, I'm going to use 6.75. That means I'm reducing the waist by 3 inches. Okay, then the blouse length is 9.25, which is 37 divided by 4. So I'm going to use that and draw out the shape. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is to mark the nipple to nipple line. The nipple to nipple line I'm using is 3.5. That is 7 divided by 2. So I'll mark the 3.5. I mark it on the bust. So let me label it. This is the bust, this is the under bust, this is the waist, this is the full length, and then the sewing allowance. So after doing that, I've marked my nipple to nipple line. I'll draw it down. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do is to draw the waist dart. To draw the waist dart, I'm taking 0.75 on both sides of this nipple to nipple line. Then I'll come down by 1 inch from the bust point. Then I'll go up by 1 inch from the full length, and then I'll draw the waist dart. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is to put the bust dart. To put the bust dart, I'm just going to come down by 1 inch from the bust, and I'll connect it to the bust point. I'll be closing it up later. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to do the overbust tightening. To do the overbust tightening, I'll measure the shoulder and divide it by 2, this shoulder slant, and divide it by 2 to get the midpoint. So I'm going to be connecting that midpoint to the bust point. Okay, then the next thing I'm going to decide is how low I want the off shoulder to be. So I'll be making it -6, -6. So I'm drawing it out. I use -6. Okay, so on this point I'm going to do the overbust tightening by marking 0.75 on both sides, and then I'll come up by ½ inch from the bust point. I came up by ½ inch to create room around the bust. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is the underbust tightening. To do your underbust tightening, you use your bust divide by 4 minus underbust divide by 4. When I do mine, I have about 1.25. So I'll be sharing that 1.25 on both sides of the outside this that leg on the other bust line. Okay, so I'm going to take 0.6 on one side and 0.8 on the other side, right? Okay, so that will give me the underbust tightening, and so I'm going to be drawing the line. And then from this bust point, you're going to curve it to that line. Curve it from the bust point to this underbust tightening that we have done now. Then you curve the other side too, from this bust point to this underbust here. So the next thing you're going to do is to tighten the stomach area. I came up by 0.5 on both sides of this nipple to nipple line, 0.5. Then you connect it to the dart leg on the waist like this, a straight line. So I'm just going to use the marker to draw it out. Okay, so this is how it will be. Now to form the neckline, you can decide if you are using a round neckline or sweetheart neckline. So I'll be using a sweetheart neckline. I'll just come down by 2 inches, and then I'll form a curve to that 2 inches like this. Okay, so we're going to be forming our panels. To form the panels, you can just decide how you want the line to be. Like, do you want it straight? How many panels do you want? You may decide to leave this one like this, and then divide this one into 2. Thereby you have you have 1 2 3, you have 5 panels for the front, or you can have as much as 8. That's here 2, here 2. So I'm going to mark this one like this. Just come out by like 0.75 or 1 here. Then I'll connect it like this just to form a slanted line like this. Okay, so see it. Now you're going to, you can decide to just mark 0.25 on both sides to form a fit in another area. Mind you, you're going to replace the dot, just form like a dot on the waist. That's from the waist on, you take 0.25 on both sides and then you connect it like this. Okay, then here also you can also make it to be slanted like this. Then you take 0.25 on both sides like this and also form a dot. Okay, so I also draw that out. Okay, so these are the panel. Now you have 1 2 3 and 4. So it means for the front alone you have 8 panels. So now when you are transferring your pattern to your fabric, you make sure that you label it. So here should be on fold, here should be on fold, should be on fold. Then you label, this is the center front 1, this is center front 2, this is side front 1, and this is the side front 2. So here is connected to the center front 1, here is connected to center front, here is connected to center front 2, here is connected to center front 1. You make the arrow. Then here is connected to side front 1, here is connected to center front 2, here is connected to side front 2, here is connected to side front 1. So when you do it, then you make sure you write up, 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 and up. Okay, now I'm making it for here. Now I'm making it a tube. So you just come down from the chest line by 0.75 and curve it to this point like this. Okay, I'm just going to draw it out like this. All right, so this is how we're going to be cutting it out. Let me extend this dark lines. Okay, so that is for the front. Also remember that you're going to be adding the total of this dart. You know, we have already reduced our waist, so you're going to replace this dart. And here now we cut 1.5, here is half, here is half, so that's 2.5. So you write it that you'll be adding 2.5 plus whatever you are using for your sewing allowance. I'll be using 0.75 for the side, that will be 3.25. Then here I'll be adding 0.75. Here I'm cutting out 1 inch. Then I'll just make it sewing allowance here to be 1 inch, because I don't want here to be too tight by the time I finish. So I'll be adding 2 inches to this point. So when you curve, Then okay, so you write it here because you're going to curve this place a bit, so you can just curve here like this to avoid having a sharp edge here. From this you're showing allowance and you put it, curve it to your dart leg like this. So on this point when you are transferring, you'll be adding 2 inches for this end. Then here you'll be adding 3.25. Then here you'll be adding 0.75. But because I have not closed our dart here, so I cannot add the allowance just yet. Okay, so now we're going to go to the back. To start the back, I'll just try and form a straight line first. Okay, so you're going to be putting your measurement for the back also. Now the armhole that I use is 8.5. I'm going to extend it here 8.5. Then I'll mark the shoulder to bust. The shoulder to bust is 10.5. We don't have underbust at the back. Now because of this dart, the shoulder to waist is supposed to be 16.5, but because of this dart, I'm going to make the shoulder to waist to be 15.5, and it will affect the length. So instead of length 22.5, I'll be using 21.5 plus 1.5 seam allowance, so that by the time you finish the front and back, they're going to be equal. So here will be the waist for the back, and then this is the full length for the back. Now I'm going to label it. This is the waist, this is the waist, this is the bust, this is the chest line, this is the full length, and then sewing allowance. Now I'm going to be taking from here, I'll take the armhole measurement, which is 8.5. Take the armhole measurement 8.5. For the back armhole, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch. Then I'll take the natural neckline of 3 inches. Okay. Now we are going to focus majorly here because we're not using here. Okay, so on the waist, I'll go in by 0.75 for my zipper dart, although I will not be putting a dart, but it will help the thickness of the back. So I'm going to slant the line. Now if you want to put a zipper on your own, you just from here you add your zipper allowance. And from this point, I'll be putting the round measurement. The bust is 9, then the waist is 6.75 instead of 7.5. Then here is 9.25. The next thing is I'll get the midpoint of the waist and then divide by 2 to get the, I'll get the midpoint by measuring the waist and divide by 2. Okay, so from this straight line, now I've gotten the actual midpoint of the waist. From this first straight line, I'm going to measure what I have. I have 4. So is that 4 I'll be taking from the straight line in order to put the nipple to nipple line for the back. For the back, you don't use the actual nipple to nipple line, okay? You use the midpoint of your waist. So I'll connect the line. Then I'm going to take 0.75 on both sides for my dart here. Then you draw your dart. Okay, so this is the first dart. This is the waist dart. Okay, so now I want to tighten the upper part. Before I do that, I'm going to draw out the neckline so that it will stop where my neckline will be. So now for the you come down by 0.75 here like we did for the front. Then you are just going to form, you can just make it straight or curvy anyhow you want it. You can make it curvy like this, just a bit like this. Okay, so this is the back. Now I'm going to mark, to tighten this back, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides of this nipple to nipple line. Then I also tighten the stomach area by marking 1/2 inch on both sides of the nipple to nipple area. So I'm going to be connecting it to this my waist dart leg. Okay, now the back will be opened. So to achieve that, I'll just go in by 1.5 here, and then I'll go in by, let's say, 1/2 inch or 0.6 here. That's the way I want it. If you want it to be straight, you can take 1.5, 1.5. By the time you open, it will be 3 inches distance, depending on what you want. If you want it to be more open, you can take 2 inches, 2 inches, it will be straight, depending on how you want it. But I want it to have a V shape at the back, so I'm just going to slant it like this. So this part will be cut, will be removed. This part will be removed. Okay, so I have the first panel for the back, which is number 1. Now I want to create another panel here. I'm just also going to slant it like this. Okay, so I'm not going to put any dart. So this is number 2 for the back and number 3 for the back. Now you need to notice, because by the time you finish cutting, they may look alike, especially this place and this place. So you're going to mark here as up, here up, and here up. Here is easy to recognize. So the dart that we took here, I'm going to replace it back. So on the waist I took 1 inch, and here I took 1 inch. Here also I took 1 inch. Okay, on the waist I took 1.5. Sorry about that. 1.5. Okay, so we're going to draw it like this. Draw it. So now when I'm cutting the back, the allowance that I'll be adding is the allowance I'll be adding for this side is 0.75. Then I'll be adding 0.5 here. So you measure it. This one does not have, though it will be cut into 2, but this is the center back. So this is the side back 1, and this is the side back 2. Okay, so here is connected to the center back, and here is connected to the side back 1. Here is connected to the side. Okay, so I use this draft to draft a detachable yoke that will have a sleeve for it, so that it will cover the two for me if I want to wear it to church. Okay, so I'll be dropping the link to the video in the description box. I didn't really touch this draft that we've drafted at all, so we're going to be cutting it out right now. The only thing is I brought down the back so that it will cover. It's just one line that I added that is distorting what I've added drafted before. So I'm just going to cut it out so that you see the way you cut it out. I'm raising up the back, the sides, in order to form a curve there. So I'm cutting out the side. Then this is the line that we drafted for the neck of the back, and then I cut out the center back. That is this piece is what I'll use to cut the modesty panel. I'll be adding allowance to it. Then the next thing is to cut out the down, and then you cut out your dart. And then you cut out the other piece so that you have your three pieces for the back. Okay, so that's what we drafted. Then if you want to have a yoke for this, it's just so simple. You can just draw out, since we have a draft before, it's just that you're going to add half inch to the downside in order to join to the back, and then you add half inch to the back also. Then you can be creative with it by forming an arc so that that place will be open. You cut it out to have a good a final design for the back if you want it with yoke. Okay, now for the front, I'll cut out the down, then you cut the sides. If you also want the front to have a yoke, you can just use that upper design, that's drawing out your neckline and then this sweetheart curve, and then you have your yoke for the front. The only thing also is to add your sewing allowance that you use to join it to the downside. That's just it. But if you're working with a tube design, you can just go on with what we have drafted before. So this is what we drafted before for the front. So I'm going to cut out the waist dart. That's the basic and our darts. Then you fold that over bust tightening so that the up will rhyme together before you cut it out. And then I'm cutting out the second dart, the other one that I did, that I took 2.25 on both sides. That I'm folding the bust dart before I cut this other dart open. Just for, you can use a pin, you can use a sellotape to hold it together before you cut. So here we have it, guys. These are the four panels for the front, and then the three panels for the back. So I'll be doing a video on how to sew all those panels together, on how you cut it, you transfer the fabric, you cut and you sew. If you are new to this channel and you have, please kindly subscribe. If you're a returning subscriber, I thank you for staying with me on this channel. Please, if you find this tutorial helpful, kindly give it a thumbs up. And if you want any other video that you like to see on the channel, you can write it in the description box. Thank you so much for watching. So that's how it will be for the back if you cut it out and you want a yoke. But if you are not working with a yoke, you can just go on with what we have drafted before. Thank you.